What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast where you didn't really ask for it, but hey, I'm going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast where we talk about anything, everything, anything about movies. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and hey guys, listen, if you're searching on the interwebs for another movie podcast to go listen to get your movie fix, to, talk about your favorite thing in the world, movies, and you accidentally came across this podcast, well, hopefully you stay around because we are, we're a fun group of people, and this is a really great community to be a part of. But if you are new to the show, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. But if you are new, what we typically do is we'll go over some movie news, some movie trailers that drop throughout the week, and we will commentate on them for you guys, and then we will have a review or reviews of movies that come out on said weekend and box office results to accompany that. This is episode 246, and the main review in question, the one that's going to be on trial to examine further, is The Nun, the new movie in the Conjuring universe. I never thought I'd say that 5 years later after the first Conjuring came out, but yes, it is the Conjuring universe, The Nun. And I'm going to have a surprise mini review of a movie I caught up on, but I won't tell you what that is until later. Now, you're probably wondering why I keep saying I, and there's no we, because usually I have a co-host, and his name is Joel. And, Joel decided to leave me this week. He wanted to get a divorce and move on with his life, go live in a cabin in the woods somewhere, and just not want to talk to me ever again. No, he is on vacation, and he'll be back next week, so I am solo on this one, and I'm recording in an interesting location. I'm recording in my parents' warehouse, and right now I see my brother, my mom, and my girlfriend in front of me. Because of circumstances this weekend, and we're just in a giant room together, and it's fantastic. So everyone say hi. Hello. Okay, well, if you could hear that, they are going through stuff right now because my parents are in the process of moving. So this is what we're doing, folks. We're doing the show on the run, but that's what I like to do. So I am going to be by myself, so it's not going to be that long of an episode, but I do have some stuff to talk about with you guys. We're going old school. I mean, I did this by myself for 4 years before Joel came on, so this is what I'm used to. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into some movie news for the week. Now, it was kind of a slow week, only because the Toronto International Film Festival and Telluride Film Festival was happening this week, so not much news dropped except for one of them, and we'll get to that in just a second because they took advantage of this slow week. But the first one I want to talk about is that Rian Johnson, the man that has been under fire for Star Wars The Last Jedi because he made a good movie and people are freaking out about that. It's kind of weird. Rian Johnson directed Star Wars The Last Jedi, he directed Looper, and he directed Brick. He's one of these kind of directors that is really good at directing these kind of underground films and also can translate his talents into the big blockbusters and still never miss a beat. Anyways, he's going to come back and direct a smaller film with Daniel Craig, Mr. James Bond himself, well, at least for one more movie, and it's going to be a murder mystery called Knives Out. Now, if you guys have never seen Rian Johnson do Looper or Brick, they're really great kind of smaller films. Looper's kind of like this time travel, science fiction, murder mystery movie kind of within itself, and then Brick is like a neo-noir modern day film. And then Daniel Craig, even though he's James Bond, he has done a lot of smaller stuff, and one of the movies that I jump to when it comes to murder mysteries is when he did the remake of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And that was done by Fincher, and I actually thought that was a pretty good remake. I saw the original, and I thought it was fine, but I thought the remake was a lot better, and that's kind of in the same vein as this movie. But this is a great team up. I mean, I always like when directors do smaller films, they do bigger films, and they go back to do smaller films. And Daniel Craig's only got one more James Bond in him, so I have no idea what he's going to do afterwards. But if this is a movie that he's going to do after that, I think it's a great kind of first step for it, and I'm curious to see it. I don't want to know any more about it. I want him to take the Drew Goddard route of Cabin in the Woods and Bad Times at El Royale, and I want them to just not tell us anything about the marketing and just have one trailer and just call it a day, because it sounds like Ryan Johnson's going to want to keep stuff under wraps for this one, which is totally great. So, yeah, this is great news all around. I can't wait to see what he kind of brings by, going back to his smaller roots. So nothing surprising there. So great news all around there. Some casting news that I found pretty interesting that they just kind of snuck in there while people were at Toronto this weekend. Rebecca Ferguson is in talks to be in Denis Villeneuve's Dune remake, and this Dune remake is actually going to have Timothée Chalamet in it, the young man from Call Me By Your Name from last year, and of course, Beautiful Boy at Toronto, and Telluride and all that stuff, and so he's getting a lot of praise for his performance there. He's going to be in the film directed by the Blade Runner 2049 guy, Arrival, Enemy, Prisoners. I mean, Denis got some really great hits under his hands too. But there is a specific actress that's in talks to join this movie, and that would be none other than Mission Impossible's Rebecca Ferguson. And she has been in, a couple movies in between the Mission Impossible movies, like the movie I don't really like, The Girl on the Train, but, I think she's a really great actress from what I've seen, even if she's in something as subpar as The Girl on the Train. I think she's really great in the Mission Impossible movie. She has, this strong attitude towards her action scenes that just seem, like they feel like it's her doing the, acrobatics and the, fights and everything, and it doesn't feel like a stunt double. She feels like she is a real, really strong actress on screen. And so, having her under the direction of like a Denis Villeneuve, I think is probably the best thing for her, because yes, she is good in the Mission Impossible movies, but I want to see her go into like an acting vortex, and I want her to actually find her skills and show them to the world. And I think Denis Villeneuve is that director to bring said performances out of actors and actresses that may have not had their time to shine in, a Hollywood movie. And, Denis has proved himself to direct, bigger blockbusters and smaller films. So, I'm hoping he can bring Rebecca Ferguson into the light. And I think this is a great addition to kind of see her with this ambitious project with Timothée Chalamet as her co-star. The next bit of casting is this is probably my favorite bit of news, because this is a heck of a cast. So get this: Tom Holland, Chris Evans, Robert Pattinson, and Mia Wasikowska and Tracy Letts. That's a heck of a cast, right? They're all poised to be in a film called The Devil All the Time. Now, it's based on a book, and I've never read the book because you guys know I don't read. My girlfriend reads, though, and she always gets mad at me because I don't read. But I do like to read magazines, so that counts, right? So anyways, I did pull up the novel's plot to this particular book, and I'm just going to go ahead and just read it straight up, because I'm not going to even try to improv this. So, in a place called Knockemstiff, Ohio, a forgotten backwoods of this country, a storm of faith, violence, and redemption brews. Out of desperation to try to save his dying wife, our protagonist, Willard Russell, turns to prayer, which succumbs to sacrifice. His son, Arvin, is going to be played by Tom Holland, is growing from a kid bullied at school into a man who knows when to take action. The cast of characters includes a serial killer couple, a faith-testing preacher, and a corrupt local sheriff played by Chris Evans, and a story told across 2 decades. That sounds fantastic. I'm actually looking forward to that now. And, with this cast, I've actually never seen Tom Holland besides being Spider-Man, but I know that he was in The Impossible, and I've heard great things about that. And so, I want to kind of see more from him. Of course, Chris Evans, you all know him from as Captain America, but he's done some smaller stuff, whether they be romantic comedies or even sci-fi films like a Push, or like a sci-fi drama. Not sci-fi, but like kind of futuristic drama, like Snowpiercer. Like, he's a very versatile actor, and so he's not just Captain America, even though he's really great in that. He is a lot more than that. Robert Pattinson, on the other hand, I still can't believe people hold Twilight over his head because the man is a great actor. If you guys have not seen Good Time from last year, he was amazing in that film, and it's probably the best performance he's ever had in his career so far. And that was a very low-budget, gritty, nighttime thriller set in the city across one night. It was exhilarating. It was wonderful filmmaking from the Safdie brothers. I just don't understand why people will still hold that franchise over his head. Yes, he was in it, but he has grown from it, and so has Kristen Stewart, so back off. And of course, Mia Wasikowska, I never know how to pronounce her name. Anyway, she was Alice in Alice in the Wonderland, the newest reincarnations of that. She's fine in those movies, but I've seen her in a couple of projects in between those, and she is a very solid actress indeed. And of course, Tracy Letts is a legend. He was also in The Lovers last year. That I particularly enjoyed his performance. I didn't really care for the movie, but he was good in it. And so you have this cast of characters and this type of premise that spans across time. We're going to see growth between characters. I think that's fantastic. Now, I have a theory. If this article, I don't think it said anything about Robert Pattinson, but if I had to make a guess, if it's going across 2 decades, you know who kind of looks like Robert Pattinson? Tom Holland. And so I'm wondering if Tom Holland is going to play a younger self, like his younger self, and then Robert Pattinson will play the older version. I have no clue, but that would probably be my guess, because when you think about it, they kind of have the same facial structure. So who knows? We'll see. But I think from the sounds of this movie and the cast, this looks fantastic, and I cannot wait to see this. All right. So a couple more pieces of news. Last one before we get into the biggest story of the week. Michael B. Jordan, Creed himself, and also Black Panther, Fruitvale Station. The guy's on fire. And I don't mean that in a punny way because he was the Human Torch, because that movie was awful, but he is on fire. I know, my brother just shuddered because that movie is it's trash. Yeah, so Michael B. Jordan, he's just one of those actors I'm always willing to watch, and no matter what he's in. I actually think he was, maybe besides a couple scenes, I think he was probably the better performance in Black Panther, but shh, don't tell anyone. Okay, anyways, he's going to be teaming up with Warner Brothers to not obviously do movies, but to do something kind of important. And that is to kind of be the front man in a new company policy to include diverse talent in Warner Brothers films. And so they're going to kind of like really focus on that, and they put Michael as the face of that. And, Michael B. Jordan is a black male, and so he obviously, if he was not as big as he is, he might have trouble getting roles just because of the color of his skin, and I think that's just absolutely wrong. And so he just seems like a genuine guy to want to start this movement within this company. And so, this story is nothing but good. I mean, we have a guy that seems like he cares about people, and he is teaming up with a big studio to try to really make a difference in, supporting diverse talent, whether it's, the color of the skin or gender. It's just great to see that they're going to try to make it more diverse, so it's not primarily a bunch of white males running around. Now, that's not the case for, some movies. There are many people that represent different cultures, particularly with one of the most popular movies right now in theaters is directed by a man of Asian descent. So, and it's actually got an all Asian cast. So we're getting there, and that's actually done by Warner Brothers, by the way. So good for them. So we are getting there, but we are still far, behind in terms of, 100% diverse talent. Because there's a lot of people out there that just they're hard-headed, and they're not going to hire people just because of the color of their skin or their gender, and I think that's wrong. My whole thought process has been this. I could care less if you're green, black, brown, yellow, red, or if you're a woman, man, fish, snake, whatever. if you are right for the job and you can do it, then hire. That's always been my thing. If you audition for it and you're the best person for the job, then I'm going to hire you. It's just that simple. But there are some people out there that don't do that, and it's kind of sad. But Michael B. Jordan is a huge face right now, and so I think using him to team up with Warner Brothers to really spearhead this, nothing but great news. And if Joel was here right now, but he's not. He's in some cabin somewhere because he wanted to take time away from me, and I just, whatever. He would appreciate the story and say this is a great progression going forward. Now, the biggest piece of news that dropped this week, because you know what, Marvel, they just don't care if a film festival is going on. They're just going to drop stuff. And what do I mean by that? Kevin Feige was like, you know what? The film festival's going on. Oscar season's here. You know what? Forget that. I'm going to drop some set photos of a movie that I have coming out next March. And what is that? Well, Entertainment Weekly did a whole spread on it. So we got to see our first official look of Captain Marvel. And, Brie Larson's going to play the lead role. The movie also stars, Jude Law, Samuel L. Jackson, Lee Pace. It's being directed, I forgot their name, so I apologize, but it's a guy and a girl duo, and they have been making movies for a few years now, and they did Mississippi Grind with Ryan Reynolds and Ben Mendelsohn, who is also in Captain Marvel, and so that was kind of their last film before they transitioned into the big blockbusters. But that's what Marvel's been doing for years now. Coogler, who did Black Panther, he did Fruitvale Station. James Gunn, before he got fired, he did Slither, he did Super, he did a bunch of small, kind of hyper-violent films. You have Jon Favreau, who did the first Iron Man and the second Iron Man. He did, he wrote Swingers, what else did he do? I'm blanking right now, but you get my point. Like, they always get like people that have done smaller films, and they have given them the full control to do a bigger. Now, obviously, you have to go within restraints of what Marvel wants, but it's still nice to hire people of like an indie film background and give them a chance to do that. Anyways, we got our first official photos. Now, Joel and I usually don't talk about photos on the podcast because obviously this is a podcast and you can't really see what I'm talking about, but this was kind of a big thing to happen this week, and there wasn't really that much news, so I wanted to throw that in here. So the photos that they dropped were Brie Larson in full costume, her with Jude Law, her with a gang of space villains, I'm assuming. We got to see Lee Pace come back as Ronan the Accuser. We got to see Samuel L. Jackson de-aged by like 30 years. That was kind of freaky because that man never ages, but for some way they were able to do that. And I think it was like one other of just Brie Larson kind of standing in a library or something. But just looking at the photos, I love it. It's like a great blend of Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor, where it looks like we're going to be doing a lot of space stuff, and then we're also going to be on Earth doing a lot of stuff. And the most important thing about this Entertainment Weekly article is that this is not an origin story. Now, you're probably thinking like, oh, great. I'm tired of origin stories. I don't want this. But you know what? I'm actually on the fence, and I want to get my girlfriend's opinion and my brother's opinion on this. Captain Marvel is a character that's never been introduced to this universe. This is a movie that's going to take place before Avengers 4. Wouldn't you kind of want just a little backstory on this character? We might get that, but wouldn't you want to kind of get to see her rise up the ranks and kind of do her thing rather than just drop us into the middle of everything? I don't know, would you think that Captain Marvel needs a proper origin story before Avengers 4? I'm asking my girlfriend.
I'm pretty sure they're going to do one because, just like how they dropped.
So she's saying that they're going to do one, but they're saying it's not going to be an origin story. So do you think maybe they're just going to kind of recap her whole life and existence like within the first 10 minutes like they did with, I guess, Wonder Woman? Yeah, I mean, because she's supposed to be the most powerful character in this universe, and you're not going to show us how everything happens before Avengers. I don't know. It just seems, like I said, I'm on the fence because I'm tired of origin stories, but at the same time, I don't really even know her. I want to kind of see her get her powers and do her thing, but it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I'm kind of iffy on it. But, yeah. The which ones? So she brings up a good point. There are, because there is a photo of aliens coming out. They're like on the beach, and they look like an album cover. They're coming out off of the beach, and I think those are the Skrulls. Now, you're probably like wondering what's the Skrulls. To be honest with you, I don't really know much about them, but I can tell you the basics. They're an alien race in this Marvel Cinematic Universe that can actually shapeshift. So they're almost like Mystique in a way, where if they see a person, they can actually inherit their looks and their likenesses and personalities in their mind, and they can be them. And so this movie is taking place in the 90s, and it's going to feature the Skrulls coming to Earth, and I'm wondering if they're going to focus on the Secret Invasion storyline, which, once again, I don't know much about, but the basic premise is the Secret Invasion is the Skrulls coming to Earth, and they actually take identities of the superheroes. And so they're just walking around like some aliens in a mask, and they're just like, hey, I'm Captain America. And the real Captain America is being he's tied up in a cave somewhere, and it's like, that's kind of freaky to know that for the past 10 years, we could have possibly been watching like a Skrull on screen the entire time, and we didn't even know it. So I have no clue how big of a storyline they're going to do. I don't know how much they're going to tie into Avengers 4. There's a lot of questions for Captain Marvel, but I'm asking my brother real quick. Give me a thumbs up if you like the Captain Marvel photos. You think they look pretty good? Yeah, so he thinks they look pretty good too. Brie Larson, she's one of those actresses that I've been a huge fan of since 2013, because she was in a small movie called Short Term 12, which is a wonderful film about her taking care of foster kids, I believe, and she, is about to leave, and there's one kid that's actually played by Lakeith Stanfield, and that was how I was introduced to him, where he's almost 18, and when you're 18, you have to leave, and it was a really wonderful drama. And then, of course, she won her Oscar for Room, not The Room, because The Room is one of the worst movies ever, and Room is one of the best movies ever. But if you really think about it, The Room is one of the best movies ever. Yeah, so it's Room, not The Room, because I know that people will get that confused. But Room, stars Jacob Tremblay, which I was introduced to him through that movie. And then, of course, Brie Larson won her Oscar, and then she immediately got cast as Captain Marvel after her Oscar win. So she looks really great in the suit. I don't know much about the character, but I think her suit looks really great. The colors of the red and the blue really pop out on her. The yellow star in the middle of her chest is very prominent, and it shows that she is going to be a bright and shining star on this MCU because, like I said before, they have stated numerous times that she's the most powerful person in the MCU. Now, I've kind of read up on her powers a little bit. She's equivalent to like a Supergirl. Like, she is insanely strong, and so I'm wondering if, in Avengers 4, and I'm sure Joel and I will have theories when we do some extra content for you guys next year before the movies come out, but I'm wondering if, like, they're going to kind of dial her back a little bit, because it sounds like she could take on Thanos one-on-one and probably kill him. So I'm wondering if, like, maybe they're just going to kind of write her in a way where everyone can, it's like a group effort to join to, like, kill Thanos and not just, rely on her, but who knows? But I think the first set photos are very promising. I can't wait to see it and see Brie Larson in the role. I think she's going to kick ass, and I think she's going to do really well, given her acting background and just knowing that she kind of looks like Carol Danvers from the comics. So, I'm all for it. And I still can't believe Captain Marvel comes out in March. Shazam comes out 3 weeks later. And then Avengers 4 comes out 3 weeks later after that. That's insane. Someone please move those movies. You're going to get crushed. And, of course, Spider-Man Far From Home comes out 2 months after Avengers 4. How are you going to market it? How are you going to market that movie, Sony? You can't just the whole thing is just it's just bad. And so Joel and I discussed that last time, and obviously we're not executives or marketing people, so we don't know how they're going to market those trailers, because that's on a whole nother level that just hurts my head right now. But anyways, that is the news for this week. Once again, going by pretty fast because I'm by myself once again. Joel just texted me in the middle of the night. It was 3 in the morning, and he was like, "I'm done. I'm leaving you." And he was gone, and he went across into Norway, I think. I think he went to a different country. I have no clue. He might have went to France. I have no. He left. He left the country. He left me, guys. Anyways, the trailers that we're talking about, moving into this section, there's 5 of them to talk about, and oh man, they are all vastly different. So the first one I want to kind of lead off with, because the last film I saw of this man, it was my first ever press screening. I did not like the movie, and it's one of the few A24 movies that I just don't really care for, and that was Spring Breakers. Now, he has come back to make another movie with Matthew McConaughey. So get this cast: Matthew McConaughey, Zac Efron, and Martin Lawrence. When was the last time you saw Martin Lawrence? Oh, and Snoop Dogg, by the way. Someone in the room has just said that Martin Lawrence's last film, Big Mama's House. Jeez, if that was your last stain on your career, please remove it. Anyways, this one is directed and written by Harmony Korine. It's called The Beach Bum, and Matthew McConaughey plays a beach bum. He kind of just goes throughout life, and he smokes, he drinks, and he parties. And Zac Efron has this weird kind of 80s hairdo in the trailer. Snoop Dogg has an appearance. You know, for someone that didn't really care for Spring Breakers, I'm actually looking forward to this, and I think dropping this trailer, even though it doesn't come out until next year, was the right move, because McConaughey has got White Boy Rick coming out here pretty shortly, so I think capitalize on that movie and kind of show another project from him is the best move. And I thought the trailer looked great. I mean, Matthew McConaughey looks like he's going to completely own this role. I mean, he looks like he is literally embodying a beach bum. Everyone else has got small little, scenes in the trailer. It's kind of more of a teaser, but we get a sense of how the movie's going to look, how it's going to feel. It's going to be like this spiritual, character reflective type of movie where we're just going to see Matthew McConaughey kind of roam around, the city a little bit. Now, is it going to be any more than that? I have no clue. But I'm still willing to give Korine chances, because I think he's a talented filmmaker. I just didn't really care for Spring Breakers. But given the cast and the way it looks, and it has like kind of that Spring Breakers vibe a little bit, maybe this can be a different movie for me. But I think The Beach Bum looks pretty promising, and it comes out next March, I believe, so look out for that. The next trailer I thought was completely boring and bland, and it makes total sense because it comes from Paramount and Mark Wahlberg. So this one's called Instant Family, and it also stars Rose Byrne as they're a married couple who don't have any kids, but they want to foster, and so they foster one kid, but you have to bring along their siblings as well. So they actually, in one fell swoop, they adopt 3 kids at once. And it just looks like, family drama and comedy, and yeah, I don't know. It just looks like a sitcom to me. And I don't know what it is with like Paramount and their comedies, but I noticed that when I was watching Daddy's Home in the first 15 minutes of Daddy's Home 2, all their comedies just look, especially like their family comedies, they just look so stale, and they look like sterile hospitals. It's not a good look. There's nothing visually compelling about it, and it just, I don't know, it just looks kind of boring. It could surprise, because the kids do look like they have great personalities, and they look like they cast some really great actors and actresses, but for the most part, it didn't grab me in any way, shape, or form. It's coming out around the holidays, so you're going to capitalize on that family kind of, bring your family to the movies, let's cry your eyes out for whatever and then leave. I like Mark Wahlberg, even when he's in trash like Mile 22, but when he does his family movies, I get that there's a market for that because the Daddy's Home movies are popular, but I don't know. It's kind of like whatever. It's my least favorite trailer of the week. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now. But, if that's your thing and you like Wahlberg and you like those type of like family-friendly movies, then good for you. The next one, I had no idea what it was even about or what the tone was, but it looks awesome. So this one's called Anna and the Apocalypse, and there's a critic quote in the trailer that sums it up perfectly because that's what it kind of looks like. Shaun of the Dead meets La La Land. It's a musical with zombies in it, and it looks fantastic. It's gory, it's whimsical, it looks entertaining, it looks light. Like a musical, but it looks, like I said, super violent, like a Shaun of the Dead. I like it. It's an interesting combination, and I thought the trailer completely sold it for me. I'm excited to see it. So, it's a group of people just surviving the zombie apocalypse while there's music going on. So if you thought all ideas out of Hollywood were not original, well, guess what? This is probably one of the most original horror films I've seen in quite some time. So, a very interesting premise indeed, and I thought the trailer highlighted that kind of energy you would want from that weird mixture of films. The next one is July 22. Now, this one is directed by Paul Greengrass and also written by him. He's the gentleman that brought us Bourne Supremacy, Bourne Ultimatum, United 93. The guy is really good at making documentarian fictional films where he has handy cam. It looks like it's not even actors on set. It looks like they are, real life people going throughout real situations. And so he did that with the Bourne movies where that was more fiction. Then he did it for United 93 where he chronicled one of the planes of the plane that crashed into the field, the Pennsylvania field from 9/11. That was a wonderful emotionally powerful film. I think everyone should go see. I think that's extremely underrated. No one ever talks about that. So it's United 93. Check it out. But he's doing it again for Netflix, and this one is called 22 July. And in Norway, on July 22nd, 2011, there was actually a really, really devastating terrorist attack. And so there was a person that murdered 77 young people attending a party youth camp on an island, and also what was it? What did I read? I forgot what it was, but anyways, a lot of people died in this terrorist attack. I had no idea this even existed. I mean, 2011 was only 7 years ago, and I guess this just fell under our radar because, I live in the U.S., and so obviously I watch news and they will cover world events, but I guess I just don't remember this one. But this one sounds like a really emotionally powerful story that needs to be told. I think Paul Greengrass is perfect for it. Like I said, United 93 is a perfect example on how he can take a very sensitive, kind of devastating subject matter, and he can turn it into not only great filmmaking and a piece of entertainment, but also a movie that will, yes, show the horrors of humanity, but also bring us together as one through these dark times. And so if there's one man to do the job, it's him. But the trailer itself looks really great. It reminds me of United 93 a lot. It looks really beautiful, even with his handy cam type of style. Norway is just a beautiful place in general, and so the landscapes and just the scenery in general look really striking on the eye. And comparing that to a really devastating act of violence is a interesting contrast. But I think the trailer was really well edited. It ramps up the tension and really gets you into the zone of this story. And it hits Netflix, and I can't wait to see it. Let me go ahead and, because I have it up on my IMDb right now. Give me a few seconds, folks, and I will tell you what or when it drops. So on the Netflix, October 10th is when it drops on Netflix. I will definitely check that out. And the last trailer is The Front Runner, and this one is directed by Jason Reitman, who brought us, Up in the Air, Juno, Thank You for Smoking. He has an interesting, young adult. He has an interesting eye on focusing on like human dramas and character studies of certain people, and just kind of sees them go throughout their lives and kind of follow them around. And this one's actually based on a real life story about. Sorry guys, I'm operating the internet from my phone, so it can be a little slow. I have it up here. Hold on. It's the 1988 presidential election, and that's his name. Gary Hart was one of the people that was going to win. Like, he was poised to win. The problem was he was accused of sleeping around and cheating on his wife, and so the paparazzi and the news caught wind of that, and so that ultimately took him down. So this was kind of like the first ever scandalous thing that happened within a campaign to really take someone down, which is ironic because given the 2016 election, it was nothing but scandals and paparazzi stories, so we've definitely adapted that as a form of political advantage now. And, whether you agree with it or not, it's there. But this one stars Hugh Jackman in his first prominent role after Logan. And once again, Jason Reitman directs it. And Jackman plays Gary Hart. Vera Farmiga is also in it. She was in Up in the Air, and she was really great in that one. Sarah Paxton, J.K. Simmons, another Reitman familiar face. Ari Granar, I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, she's always really good. Bill Burr's in it. Kevin Pollak. It's got a really great cast. And the trailer was really well done. I thought it was an interesting type of trailer to where it ratchets up the tension as trailers should, and it also has this really interesting tactic that I think Reitman does sometimes in his movies where characters will just talk over each other, and it's just really compelling, where character dialogue, and then you'll have another person just talk over them, and just, I don't know, it just feels raw and in the moment, and it's not really putting reins on the actors, it's kind of letting them do their thing. But I thought Hugh Jackman looks great. And really is commanding on screen. This is a different role for him. And I think if you had to choose one film to go beyond your final performance as Wolverine, I think it was this one. This is a great kind of move on him and his agent's parts. But he looks really kind of strong in this role, and it looks like he's going to really just kind of show people that he's more than just Wolverine. Everyone else looks fantastic. I think J.K. Simmons looks like a really great, strong supporting role. It's just a really compelling movie about a true life event that happened a couple years before I was born. So I'm not aware of this election and how it went down, but this is one of the more popular ones that people talk about in my lifetime, just because Gary Hart was supposed to win, and then this scandal took him down. And it's a very interesting story because, like I said, given today's times where this is kind of like, if you have a paparazzi story, they want to run it. Back then, it was kind of like taboo, so now it's like that election kind of opened up the doors to how people cover elections now, so it's just crazy. But I'm looking forward to it quite a bit. Now, my favorite trailer of the week, ooh, that's a tough one, because all of them besides Instant Family were pretty good. I don't know. The 22 July one was pretty great. Front Runner was good. I might have to go with Anna and the Apocalypse only because it was so different and it caught me off guard, and I kind of enjoyed it. So, but all of them look really, really great. I can't wait to see all of them. The Beach Bum makes me bummed because it doesn't come out until March, but whatever. But yeah, and the Apocalypse would probably be my favorite. If I had to pick one for Joel, how well do I know Joseph? He might go with 22 July, or the Beach Bum. That probably his picks, or the front runner, but it'd probably be those two to duke him out. Because I know that he's a bigger fan of Spring Breakers than I am, so he might be just more inclined to pick that one. All right, so those are the trailers for this week. Now, the main review in question is the newest film from the Conjuring universe, or as the poster calls it, the darkest chapter yet in the Conjuring universe. So I'm expecting some stuff to go down. I don't want anyone to play nice. This is supposed to be dark. It's supposed to be in your face. I just want it to like mess me up, give me nightmares. That's what I expect when you put that on your poster and you tout it as that. So a lot was riding on this movie. You know, the marketing campaign was very minimal. There wasn't really that many trailers. It was just the same scene over and over again. This is also the film that had the notorious takedown of a trailer because it was too scary. Sure it was. Listen, if you're online and you're saying something is too scary, I don't know, go watch a Disney movie or something to like cleanse your soul, because that just seems kind of stupid to me. It's like, you know what these movies are going to be like, so why'd you click? Whatever. And I think it was actually one of those ads to where you couldn't shut off or whatever, because it was one of those like pre-roll ads that would play on videos. I also get that, but turn your volume. Why are people complaining? Well, yeah, close your eyes, do whatever. But it's actually an interesting topic because it could have been planned. It could have been planned to where someone said it was too scary. Just one person. I'm not even joking. One person in the middle of Montana was like, complained to YouTube, that was too scary. And then Warner Brothers got wind of it and they're like, oh my God, we could use this as a marketing tactic. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories on how that came about, but you know, it is what it is. Anyways, so The Nun, if you don't know what it's about, a priest and a nun. Well, she's not really quite a nun yet. Let's just say she is a practicing nun that's going to become one. They go to investigate a suicide hanging and a killing inside of a church, and they realize there's haunted things going on. There's a demon running around called Valak, and they have to try to solve it. And that's basically it. There's really nothing more. So, like I said, this is a spin-off of the Nun character in The Conjuring 2. This film, The Nun, is directed by Corin Hardy. Never heard of this person. I don't think I've ever seen... Yep, I've never seen any of the movies, so I apologize. And this one stars Vera Farmiga's sister, speaking of the Farmigas, Tessa, is that how you pronounce it? Tessa? Well, it's spelled Taissa. It might be Tessa. I have no clue. I've never known how to pronounce her name or her sister's name. I just kind of go with whatever it looks like. But anyways, she plays the nun. The priest is played by, oh my God, Joel's going to kill me. Oh my God. I give up. But his last name is Bashir. I think that's how you pronounce it. Bichir. Anyways, he plays the priest, and then there's also a gentleman played by Jonas Bloquet, and he is named Frenchie. But we will not tell you any spoilers about this film because there are certain characters that do tie into the Conjuring films. This one takes place in the 60s, and so this takes place about 10 years before the events in The Conjuring, because that took place in the 70s. And so that's basically the story. I was looking forward to this movie because I'm a sucker for anything Conjuring related. I like the first Conjuring quite a bit. I love the sequel. I actually think the sequel is better. You can fight me on it. I thought there was a lot more at play in terms of many more demons. The setting was way more kind of claustrophobic for me, which really was effective in the horror front. It was just a better sequel overall. I never saw the first Annabelle, but I heard from my critic friends it was trash. I have no clue, but I actually really enjoyed Annabelle Creation. I know, weird, but I did. And usually with certain characters, I don't mind spin-offs. Like the Annabelle character, okay, you could easily market that as like a Chucky movie, like, oh, creepy possessed doll, cool. When I saw The Nun and The Conjuring 2, I was like, this works for that movie. It works for The Conjuring 2. I know enough about the character to where I don't need a spin-off. But some bright genius was like, listen, these films are popular. We're going to make a Nun movie. They're also making a Crooked Man movie, by the way, which comes out next year with The Conjuring 3. So they're like, all right, let's spin off The Nun. Okay, so the thing with this one compared to like an Annabelle Creation, because Annabelle Creation was a prequel of a spin-off character. Because Annabelle was just a spin-off movie. Annabelle Creation was the prequel to that spin-off. I thought the Annabelle Creation story was at least decent enough to where I could understand why they would want to make that. Making dolls inside of a workshop and having it being possessed, that's an interesting story, even though it's not really that compelling. It works for that type of movie, and of course it's littered with jump scares and interesting scare techniques as the Conjuring movies do. The problem with The Nun is that no one asked for this movie. It's not remotely interesting. They have a very small description of the demon and the past behind the church, but it happens within 5 minutes. And then the rest of the time, I'm not even joking, for the full 90 minutes, besides those 5 minutes of storytelling, it is nothing but sequences to scare you. And I don't know if it's because I'm catching on, and I don't know if it's because the other movies were like that and I didn't see it, but it just seemed kind of flat to me as a horror film. It just seemed kind of cheap, and I wasn't really invested in anything that was happening. Nothing really kicked into gear until like 45 minutes into the movie. It's just crazy, like how bland and how just kind of boring this movie was. And so I was looking forward to it because I'm not really a huge fan of spin-offs, but, you know, I'm willing to give any movie a chance because, you know, these demon possession movies, they're not going to be like the most extravagant stories, but, you know, I want it to be more than just sequence after sequence after sequence of just pure jump scare. Because the thing is with like the Conjuring films, the reason why those work is because you have a lot more players involved. You have a really nice setting with the 70s and the house and the decor. It's visually striking. You have a man behind the camera directing it, James Wan, who is creative in blocking techniques for cinematography and editing to where he uses jump scares, yes, but at least they're creative and they're not just like, you know, a cat jumping on the screen and the music plays loud all of a sudden. There's thought put into it. And on top of all that, you have the Warrens, who are the heart and soul of those movies, and played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, who are the driving force behind those movies, and you root for them, you want them to succeed. There's a lot more things at play that make those movies interesting rather than this, even though the Conjuring films aren't like, you know, Oscar-winning movies when it comes to story. It's someone being possessed and they're terrorizing the house, and they don't know what it is, and they bring in people to examine it. So that's why I like those movies quite a bit. And even Annabelle Creation to some degree had its moments. But so I guess starting with The Nun, I was severely disappointed. And my expectations weren't high, but I expect a lot from these movies, even though this one and many others are not directed by James Wan. I still want them to adapt James Wan's style and keep it consistent, which they do for the most part, but also add your extra kind of flavor to it and make it yours and not just a carbon copy of something that's better. So, severely disappointed with The Nun. I guess to start off with the top, I think Mr. Hardy's directing, like I said, was a little flat, a little dull. Really nothing to it. I mean, once the nun and the priest get to the church, it's just jump scare sequence after jump scare sequence. And like I said, some of them are effective and some of them are creepy, whether it be the practical makeup on the actual nun or some of the camera tricks and techniques, whether they be, whip pans or, dollies or whatever. There is some interesting filmmaking here that does adapt the Conjuring style into something that is actually palpable and scary. But it also seems like that's all he was doing and wasn't really doing anything more. There were some sequences that worked for me. There were some that did not. My favorite one was probably a scene that involved a graveyard and children running around and the priest running around going, what's going on? He would do like whip pans with his flashlight, and then the camera would whip to the tree. The light would be on the tree for like a split second, and you would see the kid's head just kind of dip behind the tree. It's stuff like that is more terrifying to me, like stuff that you can't really see or can't see at all, rather than just blatantly seeing and just having it fly towards you and attack you. So there were sequences, like I said, that were good, some that were not. But I will give Hardy credit for this. The actual world building of this church and this land and this village was really well done. I really liked the cinematography for the most part, whether we're talking outside of the church or, the graveyard side or the village that Frenchie was in, or, some of the hallways in this church or the chapel. All of it was really well done when it comes to a set design and kind of visual aesthetic for this type of decade and time period. And of course, you mix that with the lighting and just making it really moody and atmospheric. That stuff works. Like I said, I think the main issue is the actual story and the investment that you have with these characters and what is going on, and just the overabundance of kind of flat jump scares. I think that's what really brings it down for me. If we're talking about performances, I think Tessa Farmiga, she does a great job for what she has given. And I actually think she's just as talented as her sister. And because I saw, what was it? I think I saw American Horror Story Season 1, where she was a prominent lead in that show for that season. And she was fantastic on that show. So I've been a huge fan of her, but she did what she could do. And I think she is actually the heart and soul of this movie for sure. And I think the gentleman that played the priest, the main priest, sorry I cannot pronounce the name. You guys know me. I just I got a C- in English in high school, so I can't really pronounce anything. But he does fine. Frenchie does fine. And I enjoy the connection that one of these three characters, I'm not going to say who, one of these three characters actually has to the Conjuring movies. Even though the movie was kind of flat, that was a nice little strong stinger to a movie that was somewhat subpar, and I really enjoyed that connection. Even if it looked and sounded cheap, everyone's connected. It's I don't know. I thought the stinger to the movie was pretty interesting, because I was like, man, I never even thought of it that way. So performance is great. For its R rating, I think the actual violence and the scares and stuff, I think they are, like I said, somewhat effective. And that's why I really appreciate about these Conjuring movies, that all of them are rated R. They've never dipped down to PG-13. I really do think they have a lot more leeway when it comes to scaring the crap out of you. And so I will give them credit for that. So, I mean, is it a bad movie? No. Is it a good movie? No. It's kind of like in the middle, where it's a competent movie. It's fine, but I'm going to have to dip it down just a hair, just because I think the movie is mostly boring and it really doesn't do anything for me. But I can tell you from a technical level, whether it be the cinematography, the lighting, some of the editing, and some of the performances, I do think it does not warrant a grade in the D's, but I will give The Nun a C-. It is what it is. I don't want to see it again, versus The Conjuring, Conjuring 2, or even Annabelle Creation. I want to watch that again, But like this one, I just have no desire to see, and I don't think the nun character was warranted an entire movie. Even when they were describing how the demon came to Earth, it happened within 2 minutes. They're like, oh, some group was in the church. They summoned this demon. It came through the ground. The Catholic Crusaders came in. They stormed in. They shut it with the blood of Jesus Christ. And it's like, okay. I will say, though, before I move on to my surprise review, even though I didn't really care for The Nun, and it's not going to go anywhere on any top 10 list or even a bottom 10 list, it has one of my favorite lines of the entire year. My brother's in the room right now, and I'm going to say this line in front of him. I'm going to see how you react. So I'm not going to give you like where it's at in the movie, but here's the context. They find the blood of Jesus Christ in like a canister or whatever. And Frenchie looks at the canister and he goes, "Holy shit." And then the priest is like, "The holiest." With a straight face, he just looks at him like, "The holiest." It's just, it's one of those cheesy lines that it got me because there was hardly any funny moments in the movie, and it was just a very like straightforward kind of downer of a horror film. And then that one little line in the midst of the climax did bring me like a smile to my face, and it was one of my favorite lines. So I don't really recommend The Nun, to be quite honest with you, even though it's not like a horrible grade. I suspect that Joel maybe rated it the same. I don't know how he feels yet because I haven't talked to him about it, but kind of forgettable for me. Now, here is where I get excited about talking about movies. My surprise review is a movie I caught last Tuesday. Last Monday. This film was fantastic. And what am I talking about? It is currently in theaters. And is from Sony Pictures. I know, the Sony. And it stars John Cho. And I'm going to review Searching. Now, going into Searching, I was already excited because I'm one of the crazy fools on this earth that love both Unfriended movies. Yeah, that's right, I said it. I think the first Unfriended is pretty clever for its gimmick and just being a nice little compact thriller. And then I thought the sequel was actually better, really kind of expanding on the ideas of the internet and the dark web and really applying that to, Skype and Facebook and all that stuff. I thought that the sequel was a better storyline for that type of gimmick. And so I actually like both movies. Searching is definitely the best one they've ever done with this gimmick. Because if you've never heard of Searching is John Cho loses his daughter, and the whole movie is told through the viewpoint of a computer screen. We get to see Facebook, we get to see Tumblr, we get to see YouNow, we get to see news clips. It does it's a bit more variety than like an Unfriended movie where it's straight up just a Skype call. This is more findings on the internet that kind of lead us throughout the movie and how it propels the movie. But yeah, I absolutely love this movie. It's I wouldn't say it's top 10 of the year, but I know it's on a lot of people's list. But I think this is a straightforward, very airtight type of suspenseful thriller, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's that I honestly don't find anything wrong with this movie, except for maybe the end where it got a little too expository for me with maybe the villain of the movie. That was whatever. It just got way too explainy. For my taste, a little just like, hey, why'd you do this? Well, I did it. It's like, okay, cool. But other than that, I think it's a really great thriller. I mean, you want to talk about John Cho leading the charge in this movie. He's really compelling on screen. I've always liked him, even when he did his dramas or his comedies. He's a really powerful presence on screen, and whatever he does, like, you're just kind of drawn to because he's just that charming. But in this role, he plays a concerned father, and he really kind of gives this devastating performance, and this type of performance where you just want this character to succeed, and you're like, man, please go find your daughter. Like, I want to help you. I want to jump in there and try to help this case. And so he is definitely the driving force of this movie. It is well directed. The story moves at such a swift pace. It keeps you interested. And I think it's way more compelling than the Unfriended movies, even though I like those movies. Now, a lot of people are going to praise John Cho in the direction, on how they conducted this genre. A lot of people don't talk about the editing of this film. Yes, it has a wonderful pace to it in terms of story and character movement. But the actual editing of this movie is insane. They posted up on Twitter that it took the editors a year and a half to edit this movie because you have to recreate all those computer screens from scratch. You can't just film a computer screen and call it a day. Like, say if John Cho, like, he's on FaceTime and he has like 2 tabs open and he's talking to someone. They have to create those like squares. They have to put FaceTime. They have to create the web pages. If he goes to YouTube, they have to create all that. They have to create the boxes for the video and the titles and the recommended videos. Just little details like that go a long way because it feels like a real computer. It feels like you're watching something that everyone has in their homes. And I like the fact that it jumps between brands. It goes from Windows to a Mac. It's incredible the kind of technology jump that it does, because this does kind of at the beginning of the movie kind of goes through a bit of time passage, and it was kind of interesting to see that time passage be correlated with the technology jumps as well. So I thought that was genius. Once again, this movie is, like, going back to the directing, very meticulous within its detail and every single little thing they thought out. Like, it's incredible. But the editing of this movie is definitely the star. And I have to give those editors credit and the compositors, because I'm telling you, it's just really difficult to do. Like, I saw that quick little video on Twitter where it was like a sped up video of the editors doing one scene, one shot. That stuff took forever. There was many layers. It was it looked like a headache to do, but I got to give them props, because just creating all that to make it look like an authentic computer screen is definitely I have to commend them for a job well done. But it's a really wonderful thriller. A lot of twists and turns that you don't see coming. Some of them you will probably see coming if you watch a bunch of movies, but I think for the most part, even if you see it coming, it's so exciting to watch that you just don't care, because it is a wonderful, intense theater experience. I recommend Searching quite a bit. I'm actually going to change my grade, because I think on Letterboxd I give it a little lower than what I'm going to give it, but I'm going to give it a B+. I think it's a very, very, very good movie. Now, I might rewatch it again. It might get into the A status, but I think for right now, a B+ is a perfect rating for that movie. And like I said, I think the movie is so airtight in its details and its editing, its writing and direction, that, like I said, the only thing I didn't really care as much was the expository kind of like unloading on the audience at the very end with like, hey, why did you do what you did? Well, okay, let me start from the beginning. That's a little cliche, but I was so into the movie by that point, I didn't really care. It didn't really bother me, but I wanted to point that out. So Searching, B+. If you want to go watch a horror film this weekend, don't go watch The Nun. Go watch Searching. I think you will enjoy it quite a bit. And I know Joel really enjoyed Searching as well. So C- for The Nun and a B+ for Searching. Now, let's jump into the final bit for this weekend, which is the box office results for this weekend. Now, obviously, since Joel is not here, we're not going to do the guessing game. I'm just going to read them off to you guys. But usually we have one of us guess the numbers, and we always 100% get them all wrong. So, but here is the top 5. Well, actually, I have to say that there was a PureFlix film, or no, sorry, was it Free? I don't know what that studio is, but it's a Christian-based movie, and it also came out this weekend. It opened up to number 11 with 1.5 million. That's not good. Usually with these Christian-based films, Some of them are hits, some of them are misses. I guess this one was a miss. Okay, so jumping into the top 5, number 5 is Searching with $4.5 million. It dropped 25%. It gained 800 theaters, and right now it's up to $14 million domestically. That's really great for these types of movies. Yes, the editing on this movie is extensive with its compository work, but I think it's all worth it because the money proves it. People love this movie, so thank you, people that did all the editing on this movie. Job well done. Number 4 is The Meg at $6 million. It dropped 42%, and right now domestically it's at 131. Hold on. Once again, guys, I'm doing everything from my phone, so the internet might be a little slow, or if I hit the wrong button, I'll have to re-hit a button. So anyways, The Meg is at 131 domestically. It's at 491 worldwide on a 130 budget. This movie's going to kill profit-wise, and it's going to do really well on streaming. Now, the one film to break up Warner Brothers' top 3 gauntlet, if you will, is the new movie Peppermint, which came in at number 3 with $13.2 million. I don't think it has any worldwide numbers. Let me check real fast. Yes, it does. It only got like 1.4 million, but 14 million worldwide on a $25 million budget. Given the marketing and stuff, that's not really particularly good. I don't know if it'll do well on streaming, so that one's kind of up in the air. If that came in at number 4, the top 3 would have been all Warner Brothers, which would have been insane. But number 2, dropping 38%, is Crazy Rich Asians with $13.6 more million right now. Domestically, it's at 136, and worldwide, it's at 164 on a $30 million budget. They've already made their money back plus some, but this movie is going to kill on airplanes, hotels, streaming. Crazy Rich Asians is like the perfect airplane movie. It really is, and there's nothing wrong with that, and so this movie's going to kill in that market. And number 1, of course, because these movies will always kill at the box office and somehow cost more than The Conjuring. What? The Nun came in at number 1 with $53 million, and domestically it's at 53, and worldwide it's at 131. It's pretty good for that movie. It's actually very good for that movie because they've already made their money back because their budget was $22 million, and you guys know the rule. You have to double that. You have to add in the marketing, so doubling that to 44 for the theater cuts. I'm going to say they spent close to $50 million. So I'm going to say conservatively, just a very conservative number, $100 million to break even. They already did that. They made 131, which means they're going to do just fine. It's going to play well for several weeks, maybe even bleeding into the Halloween season. But once Halloween comes, the actual movie, that movie's going to crush and take its place. But it's going to do very well. Like I said, I can't really recommend it. I didn't really care for it, but I have to give it props for its win and kind of go over some big drops or pluses or anything. The Happy Time Murders dropped 75% and it lost over 1,400 theaters. That ain't good. And it only gained like $1 million this weekend. The Wife, which is the Glenn Close movie, which has been getting fantastic reviews, it jumped up 36%. That's not bad. We the Animals jumped up from 49th place to 31st place this week, and it rose 31% business. It's not bad. That was a film that Joel and I reviewed on DallasMovieScreens.com, so go check that out. And I believe that's it. I don't really see anything that's worth talking about in terms of rises or drops or anything. No, that's about it. So that will do it for the box office, guys, and that will also do it for today's show. And now I realize that a lot of our new listeners probably came for Joel. Like, they probably listened to our episode and like, man, we didn't like this Chase guy. Where's Joel at? I apologize that Joel was not here, but Joel is a hardworking man, and he deserved a vacation, so he's with his family right now. He's actually going to be meeting with Mark Dusick, our friend over in Chicago, tomorrow. They're going to go see the Predator screening. I'm going to see it as well here in Dallas. So, yeah, good luck on with Joel meeting one of his idols after so many years. So, nothing but love for that. But yeah, Joel will be back next week. So I apologize if this episode was short, but I tried my best. And I also record this like on a stool, and I'm holding my microphone, and so I'm running out of breath. So I'll definitely go back to a chair, and I'll control my breathing next week. So I apologize if there was a lot of breathing. But next week for episode 247, yes, 47, is we're going to be reviewing The Predator, and Joel will have a surprise review. So that will be our main topic for next week. The Predator, it premiered at Toronto, I believe, and I've heard it was brutal, violent, and like a fun 80s throwback movie. So I'm excited to see it tomorrow, but that will be the topic of conversation, and Joel will, of course, have a mini review. But if you guys want to follow us online, Joel's descriptions are down below. JoelOnFilm.com is his website. His Twitter is Real Joel Copling. And, of course, he does stuff on Letterboxd. He writes for Dallas Movie Screenings like I do. And then for my stuff, Twitter is at Real Chase Lee. Subscribe to my YouTube channel when I do like other reviews that I won't review on this show. And of course, for this podcast, if you're listening on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Castbox, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast listening from, please like, share, subscribe, do what you got to do to spread the word around on this podcast, because we really appreciate you guys listening every single week, and we appreciate you guys spreading it around. Let people know that this is your favorite film podcast, and you just love coming back every week, and hopefully we can get new people to join the Reel Me In family, because we love you guys. I know Joel's not here to talk about it, but we really do appreciate all of you. You guys are just awesome. So that will do it for this week's episode of Reel Me In: a movie podcast. I am Chase. Joel will be back next week when we review The Predator. But this has been 246. We talked about The Nun, the searching and stuff. And all the links will be in the description below. And hey, listen, if you made it through this entire movie podcast and you're not a movie fan, well, hopefully for this week, I convinced you to be one. And we will see you guys next week. There's no outro music, so I'm going to go ahead and just end this. You guys are awesome. Have a good day or good night or whenever you're listening to this. Bye-bye.